Hey everybody, welcome to the last webinar session for 2016. Hopefully next year we're going to continue on doing a lot of this webinar. Today's topic is going to be XREF management. I know that we all gone through this XREF and we all feel very, very confused at times when things are not going your way. So this session is supposed to kind of like go over like how do you simplify the XREF and then make it simple for you to work on it. Now, here are a couple of steps that I'm going to talk about today and how to like better manage your XREF. Number one is that when I first started out creating this template, I told users that you should always go XREF your reference forward but not go backwards. So what I mean by that is that if you're starting out with the element, you should always go to construct, go to view, go to sheet. You can go to elements, go to view. Basically what it means is that you have to start from somewhere for level 1 until the end, which is your sheet. What is unacceptable is that when you have element, you have reference everything backwards, okay? What this does is that this will create a lot of confusion, okay? So what you have to do is that keep in mind that when you're doing an XREF, it should always go forward and not backwards. Second is that I always mention that you should always set your XREF to relative because right now we have two office, okay? It's better to set it to relative so that you can, number one, you can easily move your entire project folder, okay? Second is that your two office can work in the same project without having any missing XREF. Third is that it's very easy to archive. Now, when you have sheet set template, when you're using sheet set template with a subfolder, this is how your XREF structure should look like. It's that it's ... okay, and then followed by elements, construct views. If you using sheet set template without subfolder, you just remove the ... so it's becoming just the one folder reference like that. Yeah, it's very, very easy. Once you follow this, you should have no issue. Third, I always said, always add prefix to all the XREF files. So let's say if you copied a consultant file, I always tell people just add a prefix. The reason why I said to do that is because when you start XREFing somebody else's file into your job, what happens is that their XREF is going to appear on the top. So let's say, assuming that you got an XREF from a civil guys, what happens is that their layers is going to be dominating your layers. So what happens is that it's very, very difficult. You have to scroll all the way down until you find your layers. So I always recommend that you add in, let's say if you receive a file from consultant, add an XE and then copy it and paste it into your element folders. That way it makes your job easier, make everybody's job easier. Okay? Simple stuff. Whenever possible, this does happen from time to time. If it's in an element folder, make sure you put it in the right prefix. Okay. What I do find is that people start to put in XC in element folder when they know that it's a construct supposed to be in a construct. So just make sure you put it in the right folder so that you don't get mixed up, because this is one of the things that really confuse a lot of users because people just start putting stuff in the wrong location. Second of all is that when they start referencing files, you notice that they have XC, okay, this is good, until you hit this particular file where people start to XREF a construct into an element folder. Now, back in the rule 1, I said that you should move forward, not backwards. This is what happens when you have XREF backwards. Okay, this is a no good. And then when you see that there's no naming standard, okay, what happened is that your XREF, like all the layers, is going to go on top. If you want the best, you have to have like this kind of a consistency. So what you have is that you have XREF, XE, and then XC, and then all you have is just XE in the XE file. So your sub XREF should all have XE. Okay, this is consistent. This is non-consistent. Okay. Yeah, this is basically going back to the previous slide. Is that this is what I've seen a lot in our project, and what we want to do is that tell people this is not how you do it. This is how you do it. Later on, I'm going to showcasing how do you avoid having this kind of a structure and then have more of this. Avoid creating subfolder inside a sheet set template. So basically, when you guys first started with sheet set template, when you copy those files into your project, one rules I always tell people not to do is that do not create a subfolder inside a subfolder. What tends to happen is that when you do your relative path, you're actually adding additional XREF path, which means that your path is no longer dot dot slash element. It's going to be dot dot slash dot dot slash dot dot slash dot dot and an element. So basically what happens is that the more subfolder you add in, the more the file is going to get longer and longer, and sometimes it confuses people, so just avoid doing that. Okay, avoid cross-referencing XREF, all right? So what happens is that XREF should be on its own, so you should not have, let's say for example, this is an older file. You notice that here, when you have XREF, you should not have an X within an X, or like XE within an XE, okay? And then this one, XE within an XE within an XE. So this is pretty bad, okay? Because you're confused, you're not sure where it starts, and it makes it harder for everybody to analyze what is going on within your file, okay? Avoid that. Now going back to that, creating your own subfolder or creating or having XREF outside your folder, is that your file path is going to get longer and longer. When you set it to relative, this is what you're going to get, okay? And also avoid referencing to file receive folder. You should always make a copy and paste it into the element folder, okay? Once you reference this outside of your folder, if this thing ever gets archived, then your XREF is gone, okay? Just to be aware. So it's always better to have it all contained within that sheet set folder, okay? Now the other thing to avoid cross-referencing is that if you do cross-reference, your annotative scale will add it to current drawings. Often user will select the wrong scale. I've seen a lot of projects where people selecting 1/8 equals 1 foot XREF, okay? You're not supposed to, but it happens. Also, it makes it very difficult to change XREF to relative. Let's say, for example, when you have a lot of cross-referencing XREF and then XREF to itself, what happens is that if one path is different from another, AutoCAD will not pick up which one is the correct path. So it's always going to give you a question mark. So what the user has to do is that they have to go inside and change it manually, and it's very, very difficult. Hopefully I have an example later on just to show you what I mean, okay? And also if you have a lot of cross-referencing, cross-ref XREF, what happens is that when you have 2 or 3 XREF in, let's say, a file, what happens is that you're binding 3 of those drawings together, and then that will increase the file size. Imagine if you have floor plans, let's say level 1, level 2, level 3, and then you're doing basically a core plans. What happens is that when you bind all those 3 files together, basically it binds level 1, level 2, level 3 together into one big massive file. So you think that core files is very small, but when you combine all those level 1, level 2, level 3 files, it becomes really, really big. Also, I'm noticing is that when you start doing a lot of cross-referencing XREF, it will start to fail bind your XREF. Okay, I'm noticing this a lot in recent projects. People keep asking why my XREF failed to bind. It's because you have too many XREF that's cross-referencing each other. Okay, and sometimes what happens is that it will add unnecessary layers to your XREF list so that your XREF gets longer and longer. And every time in 2016, what happened with XREF with the layer commands is that it's basically it's a dockable. And what happens is that when you switch from one drawing to another, AutoCAD has to refresh those layers. So the more layers you have on a list, the slower it will switch from one drawing to another. Okay, something to keep in mind as we go along. And also, it confuses user. Cross-reference XREF will not show up on XREF lists. What I mean by that is that if you click on, like normally when you do XREF, this is what it's going to show up. It will not show up this list unless you put on a tree. Okay, there's the 2 button. This is the older version. I'll show you an example later on. Okay, it will confuse you if you don't know what that does. And most of the time, cross-reference XREF will create a circulating XREF. Okay, it's very difficult to clean. Okay, I have a scenario 1. Okay, just to give you an example of what I'm talking about. You have scenario 1. You have a property inserted into a grid line. It works for level 1 floor plans, but when you actually put it into a core plan, it adds an unnecessary objects to, let's say, core plan level 1. For instance, you have property line go into, let's say, grid, and that get XREF into, let's say, level 1 and core level 1. What that does is that this particular property line is not applicable for this. So this is the incorrect method. So what you're doing is that you're technically adding more crap to core levels. Okay, the correct method should be the XE grid line should go to its own. So let's say this one goes to here, that one goes to there, and then property goes to there, and then here you only got grid lines and not property line. Okay, this is what I've seen a lot of people doing because they keep referencing stuff. Let's say they want grid line, they're referencing property lines into it, but it's not necessary you need that. Okay, just keep in mind, don't do that. Okay, scenario 2. I've seen a lot of people, what they do is that they have, let's say, exterior skin. They want to referencing into like a suite, for instance. And what happened is that the XREF it to here and then XREF it to there. And what happened is that they also XREF from this particular exterior skin into this. So what you end up doing is that you're basically adding 2 XREF into level 1. And what happens is that when you bind it, it's going to be double the size. And if one scenario is that if this path, let's say this XREF path into this is different from this XREF path into this, you're going to get unresolved XREF. Okay? Just to be aware. What you should be doing is that you see that XE should just only go to XC, and then XE should only go to XC. So this is why I said avoid this, having this cross-referencing, because this is what kills a lot of people. I wouldn't say people, but it just kills your time, okay? Because most of the time people can figure out why my XREF is not binding is because, yes, you have a lot of this that you should be avoiding. Let's go to third scenario, okay? Let's say, for example, this is a perfect scenario where you have you've done everything correct, and then you reference everything to level 1. Now, you want to do a core plan. So what a lot of people do is that they XREF this level 1, put it into a core plan, and then you X-clip them, okay? What I mentioned before is that if you have like level 2, level 3, level 4 cores, and then you X-clip them, and then when you start binding them, your file size is going to get maybe about 4 or 5 megs, sometimes 10, depending on how many cores you have. And to me, it gets to a point where, you know, is it acceptable to send it to a consultant knowing that, you know, the file size is too big? Okay, the correct method should be you want to keep the extra. You should not be XREFing the level 1 to the core plan. You should make your own different version. So what I did here is that you have the correct method would be you take the element and you put it into its own independent path, so that when you have the core levels, what it does is that it's just referencing to its own construct, not going into the views and then going to its own file. Okay, so it should be moving forward. It should not cross-referencing each other. Okay, does then anybody have any question? No question. Okay. All right, that basically ends the cross-referencing. So today I'm going to show you guys some of the tools that I've used to basically clean out some of this or change your path into relative and then clean up some of the stuff. So one project, I have one volunteers that asked me to kind of like look after one of those projects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a live demo. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is that if you want to change your file path to relative, you would use one of the program inside Autodesk. Okay. So what you have to do, you scroll all the way down until you find Autodesk. You go to AutoCAD 2014 or 2016, doesn't matter. You can use this, what's known as Batch Reference Manager. Okay. For this particular exercise, I'm going to use 2016. The reason why is that sometimes 2014 you will have, let's say, educational stamp in your drawing which you don't know. But when you send it to, let's say, a consultant, they will say, oh, I have educational stamp, can you remove it? So by using 2016, once you save it, it will remove those stamps. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is that once you open it up, all you have to do is just drag and drop your drawings. For this particular case, I'm just going to start with, let's say, just general for now. So what I'm going to do is just drag and drop, okay? And ask you if you want to add first level. I'm just going to say just go all of it, okay? All right. The first thing you want to do is that you want to click on this particular guy, Save Path, okay? And scroll all the way down until you find the one that you want. Okay, so for this one, okay, you have images. As I mentioned before, people should not reference into another folder. You should always copy it and put it inside that folder so that you avoid this scenario. Okay. The reason why I said that is because when you start moving projects, this thing no longer will show up. Okay. So for this one, for example, if you want to do it, just go Edit, Select Path, and then all you have to do is just remove the first line up to the AutoCAD, and then just remove it and just call ... /.. When you hit OK, what happens is that it will give you, okay, this one has circulating path, don't worry about it. The reason why you're getting it is because when you have a lot of those cross-referencing, this particular reference manager will not detect that as, you know, just ignore it. It will just tell you, oh yeah, you have circulating path. Okay, it will get annoying, but you know, you guys have to just work with it and just correct the path. Okay, so let's say, for instance, here I'm just going to do the same thing. Go edit the path. Okay, that's the thing about this tool is that you can just find the similarity between all of those and then just repath them together. Okay, yeah, ignore that. Okay. Okay, this is good. Okay, let's say I'm going to do title block, for instance. All title blocked. All you'd have to do is just go in there and do that. Yeah. Okay. Once you start to know, like once you do this more often, it's pretty easy once you do this. And then once you've done that, all you have to do is just hit Apply Changes. Okay. All right. Right now, I'm just going to go back and say, why is this giving me circulating XREF? So that drawing, I just want to say it's a site anno. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to go into one of the drawings just to how to avoid that. So the one thing that I would probably do is that it's probably under element. Let's say if it's a XE site anno. Okay, just open that up. Okay, whether you should use 2016 or not it's up to your preference. I would recommend using it. It's because this will remove any stamps, educational stamps. So I know that a lot of our projects got infected with educational stamps. So if you want to ensure that your project will not get it when you send it to a consultant, use 2016. Okay. Okay. So this looks like it could be from a consultant file. Okay, so one of the things that I always tell user, when you receive consultant files, it came with an XREF. Always bind their XREF. Okay, just to keep it very simple for you guys and for everybody else, because what happened is that sometimes their XREF could spell a lot of issues, especially right now I'm getting a lot of this circulating XREF warning. So always do that. Now, when you look at this, this looks like your typical XREF. When you click on this, this is what you're going to see in the beginning. Okay, you're not going to see, oh, yeah, this looks like it's good. But when you start to click on the tree, this will reveal what is wrong with your file. Okay, so when you're trying to click on analysis, right? Let's say you want to analyze what is wrong with your XREF. The first thing, and when I click on this, yes, I do see a bunch of things that is wrong within your XREF. Okay, I get a question. It's a mess, a site. Yes. Okay. Yes, it is a messy thing. So when I said before, your XE should not have another XE, that's the reason behind it, because the minute that you start to have a lot of this cross-referencing, this will give you a lot of issues. Okay. You notice that right now the path is inconsistent. Some has ... some have ... Okay. So what you should be seeing is that you should be ... Okay, that should be your what you're aiming for. But if you do see this kind of a thing, yeah, maybe in another session I'll probably show you how to clean this up properly. But for this case, this is just an example of how bad this could get. Okay. Now, if you want to, let's say, change this to relative path using IBI tools, there is a tool in there you can clean it up. Let's say, for example, cleanup tools. There is one called the change XREF full to relative. So what you have to do is just click on that. And what it does is that it will change your XREF to relative. Now, what it will not do is that if you have XREF that is already set as full path inside that particular file, you have to go and open that file. Okay. And then what you have to do there is that, again, just go cleanup tools, just say change relative to full. Okay. And what happened is that that should change majority of that file to relative. And also for the survey, again, this is not where you should be putting it. Okay. Just as an example, because if you put anything in base info, if let's say your XREF, let's say your sheet set template moved, this will not move with it. Okay, just as a warning to people, don't put it inside base info. You should always put it inside. Let's say this is your element folder, right? There is one called site. If you want, you can create your own called S survey. Okay, because that way you can just dump in your survey drawing in here, and then whenever survey updates your drawing, just overwrite that file. Okay, just simple as that. So this is why I said don't put it in there, just get mixed up. Now the other thing I always tell users that if you have, let's say, XE level 1 like that, right? I always tell people to unload their XREF. You know the reason why I want people to unload their XREF? It's because when you have loaded XREF, sometimes those errors will exist as one of those drawings, and then it will just infect your file. Okay? If you have scale lists like this, right? What happened is that it will add all this crap into your drawings. Okay? Just as a warning to people, because this does happen from time to time. And what happened is that your scale list will get ballooned. You see? Okay? So this is why I always unload it, so that it basically helps you reduce the error. Okay? When you bind drawings, it will help you a little bit. Okay? And then when you have, notice that when you have cross-reference, I start to unload those this XREF, and you notice that this thing gets unloaded as well. This is why I said it's a bad practice if you have cross-referencing XREF. So what I have to do now is I have to go into that particular drawings, okay? You see that there's a little bit more. And there's nothing I can do with this because I don't know how critical this is, so I'm going to leave it alone. But if you want, you can always say change it to overlay so it will not affect anything. Okay. Since this is a landscape should not see a lot of this, a lot of your AutoCAD drawings, right? So when you go purge it, okay. So XE should always have nothing in it except for the object element. Okay. The minute you see, unit layouts, yes, you should set them to overlay. Okay. And I always say just unload them. Okay. It's a good practice just to unload them so that you know what you're getting. This is what I'm getting. Okay. And once you go into, let's say, this particular file, okay, this is what I should be getting. Okay, you notice that right now, once it's set to overlay, those things are no longer appearing. Okay, so that you know what you're getting. Okay, this is what I'm getting. I'm just going to save it. And then when I reload that, say OK. Okay, you see that nothing's wrong. It's a good practice because the thing is that sometimes when you have a lot of this cross-referencing, you're not sure if they're actually duplicating your XREF. Okay, because when you have 2 or 3, 4 level 3 referencing, sometimes those referencing could mean that this and that it's going to get bind in one and in this one as well. So I always go back in there and say, okay, for this particular drawing, I should set that to overlay, okay, and unload that because you don't need that object element. I'm just going to save it, okay, and I'm just going to reload that. Yeah, you try to reduce that as much as possible. Right now I have one survey. Oh, good. I eliminate the other survey drawings. Okay, so by doing that, you only have this XREF, and then you don't have it appearing in your site and this townhouse level 1. Okay, so that basically clears it out. But other stuff like that, let's say for example you have core level 1. Okay, now what you can do with XREF is that you can actually copy and paste XREF. So what you can do here is that, assuming that, let's see, where's my 0, 0? Oops, I'm just going to close out of that. 0, 0. Okay, the 0, 0 is somewhere there. So what I would typically do is that this is kind of bad. I would never put it like that. I like to leave it as alone, or what I would typically do is that I like to bind it together so that your core have this information together as one rather than creating a separate thing. But if you need to keep it separated, you can just force it to basically copy paste 0, 0. But one of the things I would do for this one is that set it to overlay. Okay, and then I would just say save it, so you're not going to see it inside that particular drawing. And if you need that core information in there, then you just say paste it back to the, oh, okay. Oh, there's a duplicate, so there you go. It's not showing up, so I have to detach that. Okay, now I'm going to go edit, paste coordinate. Okay, right now it has problem because, yes, the XREF is no longer there. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go .. before I do anything, I want to know where this is located. Okay, so right now, let's say, for example, this is the path, and you only get this particular path. What you can do is that you can type in classic XREF. Okay, that's the command. That's will bring up the old XREF. And what happens is that you click on this and you go save path. What happens is that it would change that particular drawing into full path. Now, once you have access to it, then you can say .. and you just copy the same, and then say save path. And what does that becomes a relative path. Okay, it's a quick trick I like to do because the normal XREF, you notice that once you save the path, you cannot change it or you cannot copy it. So I like to use the classic XREF. Okay, and just select it and just say save path. What it does is that it will save your path as full path, and then once you've done that, then the next step is just change it to relative. And once I have that, and go back to here, okay, since it's not picking that up, then I'm just going to say paste that in. There we go. Okay, so that's a quick way of how to move one XREF to another, okay, if you do have that kind of a problem. All right, any questions so far with that? So what I'm doing there is I'm just demonstrating how I would clean. Okay, so for example, you have this Win 7. What does that mean, right? Windows 7. Now, what I mentioned before is that when you have a lot of this, let's say this particular drawing called 216067, what happened is that when you type in layer, you see that all this crap will start to appear on top of your list, and then when you scroll all the way down, that's your layer down below here, right there. Okay, it could get very annoying. All right, here's a quick trick to basically, if you want to change it. Let's say, for example, this is your file name. You cannot change the name of it. So what I would do is that, well, actually, you cannot do it here, but I'll try it in here. Let's say, for example, you do run into that problem. What you can do here is that you can actually reference name and type in that particular XE. So what happened is that when you go click on that layer, whatever those XE, it's going to basically populate down below. So let's say, for example, this one, I'm going to call it XE. It's not a good practice. I would rather if you rename the actual file, but if you have to have this issue where it becomes a really big problem, okay, add those name in there will basically migrate all that XREF down below. You see that right now I changed all the 39527. No, actually not that one. Yeah, there you go. You see that I'm just adding an XE, and what it does is that it basically takes all that XREF and it just move it down. All right, the other thing I tell a lot of users not to do is that you should never use ref edit. I know that a lot of people likes to use ref editing because it makes it easier, but the problem is that when you do ref editing, you see that you have a lot of this anno crap, right? So nobody's going to clean it out, and sometimes what tends to happen is that when you have multiple line types or something, let's say dimension, it will not remove that. Okay, so that's the unfortunate thing. Okay, there you go. Now, if you want to remove it, let's say, for instance, you have. Do you have another dim? Okay, you have a door here. Okay, this is probably bound. So what I would typically do is that if you have a door, let's say for example you have a door there, and then you have a door there, okay, you can actually combine those two layers together. How I do that? Okay, so what I'm going to do is that just do a two rectangle, put one layer as a door, and put the other one as, let's say, that door. Okay, what you're going to do is that you're going to go layer LAY MRG for layer merge. Okay, you hit enter. You select this particular object first, and then you want to say I want to merge it to that. You wish to do yes, and what happened is that it will combine all that layer and just put it into that a door. Okay, yeah, it's a good tool if you want to basically clean up a lot of your XREF mess. All right, I'm just going to demonstrate again. So just do a two rectangle, put one layer as, let's say this one is door frame, and then I'm going to put the other one is going to be this door frame. Just type in LAY MRG, okay, do this, and do that, and then say yes. Oh, sorry, I did it wrong. So first you have to do layer merge. First select the layer you want to merge into. Select the layer that is that you want to merge into, then say yes. And what happens is that it will delete that layer. Okay, this becomes a door frame. Okay, that's a good tools if you want to use if you want to do that. Okay, now for the Revit people, I know that some of you guys are using Revit. Okay, I won't destroy this drawing, but I'll I'll just bind it just as a purpose. Let's say, for example, just as a demonstration. So let's say you receive this file as a Revit. You want to bind everything together. I'm just going to make sure I'm just going to bind it. Don't worry, I won't save this. When you bind it, you always choose Insert. Okay, I always like to choose Insert because what happens is that if you choose bind, what happens is that it's going to give you a lot of this $ crap. Okay, so you try not to do that. I always like to do Insert. Don't worry, I won't save this drawing. This is for like people who wants to do like take your AutoCAD file and then translate it inside Revit. Okay, it will take some time to bind, so I always like to bind it like one at a time. And now I can just say, okay, go in there and just bind all of this. Bind, insert. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's say this is your drawings, and you have so much layer that you're dealing with, right? Inside the AutoCAD tools, you have a tool called merge all those layers into just give you like 2 layers. So what I have is that you have this tool called merge all layers. You just click on that. What it does is that it takes all that layers and then just turf all the layers and then just make it into 1 layer. So for the Revit guys, this is a perfect tool so that they don't have to deal with those information. All they have to deal with is just 1 layer. I've used it a lot, especially if you are doing, let's say, you have to create a family, for instance, and then you want to reference in a site plan. This is a perfect way to do it so that you don't have to deal with so many other junk. You just have 1 stuff and then be done with it. Okay, what it does is that it basically just takes all of that stuff and then it just binds it together. Don't worry, I won't save this drawing. So, are you afraid, Rana, that I'm doing this live? Don't worry about it. Okay, so when you go to layer, oh, I didn't do it. Oh, that sucks. Okay. Yeah, I didn't do it. Okay, so I think there is something wrong inside that layer, but because what happened is that I'm trying to merge something and it won't do it. So I guess, yeah, the process failed. But if you want to do it, it does work. It's just that sometimes there's something wrong inside one particular file or one particular layer that will cause it to fail to kind of merge it together. Okay, try it. I mean, the tools are there. Just try it. If you want to clean it out, just under layers and then just merge all layer. What it does is that it's supposed to merge all of this layer into one, and then you can just use it for something else. Okay. Right, so I did demonstrate how to clean those up when you have the XREF within that. Okay, anything else you guys want to know? Let's say, okay. Let me just look at like other drawings and see what can be done. So let's say I'm going to go into the sheets. I always like to start with the sheets because sheets is where a lot of your drawings is going to go. So what I would do is that take one section of your file, okay, and just dump it there. Sure, just add all of your XREF. All right. So here, I don't want to mess around with the survey information, so I'm not going to do anything. Unless if you want, I could show you another, okay, let's copy that particular file. Let's say, for example, you have that base information, okay. Let's say base info, survey. Let's say this is your survey drawings. You copy that. You dump it into the folder which I've created, which is called the elements survey. Paste it there. First thing I would do is I just copy the path, okay? And then when you go edit that path, and then just say, I'm going to change that to ... and say okay. Yeah, it will give you that notices, so not that much you can do. And then if you want title block, again, I would just go edit ... Okay, and then just say go all. And then the plans, again, just go edit, just remove the views, ... Once you do it a couple times, you kind of know what to do. So it becomes like a second nature once you know how to do it. But I like to do this is more to do more to demonstrate people that the more you do this, the more you kind of like, okay, this is the path I'm supposed to do, supposed to use. There you go. You notice that when I change that, it becomes this resolve with the pencil mark. This means that it's already been edited. You see that last time the title block I set it in, and then it's resolved. Okay. If it's not resolved, it should look like this. Like, okay, you can't find it inside that plan. So you kind of have to go into that particular file. This will not fix everything. Okay. It will not find if it doesn't find the file, it doesn't know how to fix it. So what you have to do is that you kind of have to go in there and repath it to, let's say, this level 1, for instance, okay, or detach it. So there's not that much you can do except just going into that particular file and just go modify it. All right. Okay. I'm just going to hit apply. I think I'm showing you guys enough. All right. The other thing I should show you guys is the DWG Convert. So I know that in our office we have this educational stamp that's appearing in a lot of the projects. If you want to clear them out, you have to use the 2016. Click on DWG Convert. Okay. Now, first thing you want to do is that I'm just going to use this particular file just as an example. I'm just going to take, let's say, I'm going to go to elevation since it's the most simplest one. All you have to do is just drag and drop. Okay. What this will do is that it will take whatever is inside the XREF and it will just clean the whole entire file up for you. Okay. I find that this is very, very powerful if you want to do this very, very quickly without messing up and then go to every single drawing, because I know that going to every single drawing takes a lot of time. So this will do it for you. It has this limit, so what I would typically do is do it by section. So if you have, like, let's say a drawing, like this mini drawing, yeah, I'll just say just grab it and just dump it in there. Don't do all the drawings or else it will just not work. Okay. When you do a conversion setup, what I typically do is that I click on the modify and in place, that's fine. Okay. AutoCAD 2016 will read 2014 files. So the last format 2014 was, I think, it's 2013, so it's fine. Just click on that. Fix error, I'd probably say set default folder to none. Purge drawings, convert signed digital file. All right, just check them on regularly. Default plotters to none, yeah, I check it off. If it's a sheet, this should always be checked off, but if it's like an element folder, construct reviews, then I'll check this on because you should not be plotting inside those files, those XREF files. On sheets, yes, this should definitely be checked off. You can also bind drawings, but I try not to, okay? If you want to, let's say, if you're using Revit and then you want to bind their drawings, this is the quick way to do it. So what you do is that you open up the DWG Convert, hit that bind, insert, and then the way we go, just click OK. All your files is going to get bound. Okay. So rather than you go to every single drawing and bind them manually, this is a quick way of doing it. Okay. Click OK, and then close, and then just say Convert. What it does is that it will just go through every single file and open up, and then just bind your drawings. Okay. It's a good way to kind of clean up your XREF at the same time cleaning up all the stamps that's existing in your drawing. Okay, it's just, yeah, it's going to go through that process. Any question before we end today? Let's see if I can unmute everybody, and then if you have any question, you can speak. I'm just going to unmute everybody. You can speak directly to me now, so I can actually hear you guys.
-8 gets you 60.
No question.
So you get 67. Then we're back to this is 67. Are you going to slow? We stepped this up because you were able to. Yeah.
No question. Okay. Well, Well, hopefully you find this thing a little bit interesting. I'm just doing it quickly, very quickly. But if you do run into like problems with XREF that you want me to help you resolve, right? I can't resolve every XREF because everybody does XREFing very differently. But one thing I do tell people is that just keep that the folder structure. So elements should go to construct, construct should go to views, views to go to sheet. So it should be a linear progression. All right. You should not have a lot of the like by doing that kind of a method, you should not run into any issue. But most cases, when you start to have cross-referencing, when you have XREF from element to element, then you can start to get a lot of gray area. Okay, files are not binding because of that. Things are not going the way it's going to. Yeah, that's because that's what happens. All right, that ends today's seminar. And Happy New Year and Merry Christmas to everybody. Hope you enjoy your holiday. Thank you. Bye-bye.